All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Neeraj Kumar. I'm lead Azure architect. I'm also Microsoft certified trainer. Uh, and we are going to get right away into our, agenda for today. And you have been, participating in AzureTalk. So AzureTalk is a session that we conduct, that I conduct every weekend. And this time around, we have decided that we'll take questions from the audience. So like, every month end, we will present a topic, and then at the month end, we take the opportunity, we open the forum for any kind of question, which is our AMAQ session, which is means ask me any questions. And this month we have covered Azure Compute, so we have covered VM skill sets, and Azure Service Fabric, and any and other topic on compute. So today I will take any questions that you have, any questions, doubts, any queries on Azure Compute, and I will try to answer those questions. And in this process, I also have a couple of my colleagues who will also help me out with this. So Lalit and Shakti, two of my team members,
Yes.
who's gonna help me with this. So let's get straight away into the questions. If you have any question on Azure Compute, please go ahead. Either you can type in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and speak up. Any question from the audience on compute? No questions?
So any questions related to the VM migration, or probably you just wanted to know how you can save the cost, or any questions which is related to the infrastructure? Anybody have any questions can ask. Feel free to ask. It's just an open forum like we did in every month.
So I see that Ranjit has one question. So maybe Ranjit, you can speak up, or you can type your question in the chat.
I'm in the hotel room, so you probably would be hearing some background sounds. So the question is like, which I asked earlier, when we are creating a VM or a VM on-prem, and we are using the same VHD file uploaded to the Azure, and trying to create a trying to deploy a VM using that image. So I'm not getting the unmanaged disk option, whatever the way which I'm trying to do. So is there any way to get the unmanaged disk option? Whenever I try to do that, so this is completely getting disabled, and it's only showing up managed disk. It is getting selected as managed disk.
So your question is that you have a custom VHD from on-prem, and you upload it to your Blob Storage, and you make it as a golden image, and then from there you're trying to create a VM. And when you try to do that, you only have option of unmanaged disk, but you don't get any option for managed disk. Is that correct?
No. Yes, vice versa. I'm getting only managed disk option. I'm not getting the unmanaged disk option.
Oh, is that? It's very strange. Usually, when you will upload your VHD, so how are you trying to create your VM? Are you trying to create through the portal, or you're trying to create through the PowerShell?
Both, even if it is portal, if I try to deploy that one, that's the same. If I try to, like PowerShell, I'm already configuring it as managed, because the option, it was erroring out when we try to do the unmanaged disk option. So that is a time where we try to do, okay, let's try to deploy manually and see what are the options which we are getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually you should get option for both, managed and unmanaged, but in your case, probably we'll have to look how the upload. You have to make sure that you're uploading it as a block blob. This VHT that you are sorry, the page blob, not the block blob. When you're uploading this VHT, and also this VHT, I hope these are generalized images that you're uploading from on-prem, and you're not uploading your VHT as is. So
Yeah, absolutely right. It has been undergone the same processes which we normalized, then we brought it up. And second thing which I want to know is when we are trying to make this as a custom image, do we need to install any Azure agent or anything? From Azure side, do we require to deploy any other component on that image since it is a custom image?
you don't need to, but however, certain components, if you're making use from the Azure, you can put in, like, if you're using Microsoft anti-malware agent, you can include that if you really want to, or if you're using any third-party extensions that you want to, you can do that. But that's not required as such to deploy a VM or VM custom image.
Okay.
So we need to look into your specific problem. Why are you getting only managed disk option but not unmanaged? That's a unique.
Yes, can I just share something? Ranji just wanted to, yeah, Ranji just wanted to know, like, when you just create the VM, did you select the managed disk or the managed storage account, something like that?
No, this
When
is
just
getting
VM in Azure?
this is like
How
not
did you upload?
managed this because it is not even reaching to that point, right? The
So
reason is like when we upload, it is a basically it is a VMware VHT file, VMDK file, converting into VHT, then uploading it to the storage, then picking it from there.
So what kind of storage account that you have used to upload it?
That's a good question.
Did you use general purpose storage account or blob storage account? What was the
I
storage
believe
account?
it's a blob storage account.
Okay, so you have to upload it into a general purpose storage account as a page blob.
Okay, I'm not sure about I because it's been already created, so I'm not sure whether it's a page blob which they created or not.
I mean, you can have general purpose storage account which can accept page blob, which can accept append block, and blob, right? So these two options you have, and the other one is the blob storage account, which stores as a block blob. So now you need to see how have you uploaded, because when you have this general purpose storage account, you can upload it as a page blob, you can upload it as a append blob, and you can upload it as also a block blob. Those three options that you get when you upload it through Microsoft Storage Explorer, at least that option that you get. So depending on what you choose, if it is not page blob, then certainly it's not going to work and it will give problems. So if you can verify your storage account type and how it was uploaded.
Let me ask you this way. So if I haven't uploaded to the page blob, will I be able to deploy the VM?
You shouldn't be. Typically,
Okay,
you
so
should.
that means it is in the page blob. It is in the right place. The reason being, I'm able to deploy. The deployment is going on, but I'm trying to get a unmanaged VM. I can deploy from like Azure images. The pre-default ones are able to deploy, but the one which we are using, I'm trying to deploy, but it is not giving the option. So the rest of the deployments are happening.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can just check it, because the problem that you're facing, it's a unique, at least I haven't faced, so I cannot really definitely answer your question. Maybe we'll have to look into your specific problem.
One more thing, like, did you create the container under the Blob Storage account and then put your VHD?
It is the storage is not created by me. So there is the storage team. They have the one who created it, so it is handed over to us. And initially, we haven't given anything, like we don't have that much of rights to explore. So right now we just started getting that.
So one more thing, like even though you can ask your storage team to just go to the VM properties, and there you will be able to view whether it's the page blob or probably which kind of the storage is just go ahead and store.
I mean, I was referring to, like, when you come to this
Yep.
Azure Storage Explorer, and if you try to upload anything, let's say if I try to upload a file, it gives me option what kind of, the way I want to upload. Is it a block blob or page blob or append blob? And that was my question. How was it uploaded? You can upload a VHD as a block blob also. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a very precise reason, but it must be uploaded as a page blob.
For deployment, it has to be a page blob, right?
Correct. For if you see in the bottom, there is a checkbox for this. It's called upload VHD. VHDX file is blobs. It will automatically, convert into page blob. If you're using a Azure Storage, this is a GUI tool. But if you use AC copy, you can upload it through any means. So you need to see how they have uploaded. Have they used AC?
No, they are uploading using the normal upload option. That's what they did.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
they're not using anything related to any other components or tools. They are using just upload.
Okay. Yeah, so then just check with them, what have they uploaded, and then probably that could explain why. But certainly we have not faced that problem. So
okay.
All right, thank you for asking questions. So let's move on to the next question. So Sai Kiran has one question. What is the main difference between custom image and a snapshot? So, Sai Kiran, the custom image is when an organization decides to bring their own golden image from on-prem into Azure. That's called custom image. So, like you can, this could be a hardened image. This could be like an image with your on-prem agents, like Symantec, TCS, or any other agent that you typically deploy on-prem, and you want to bring the same image into cloud. So, what you would do is you will create a base image, or you will create a base VM on-prem, and then you will generalize it. So how do you generalize it? Microsoft, if it is a Windows, I'm talking about Windows, similarly for Linux also. So you have to remove system-specific references using sysprep. So sysprep is the tool from Microsoft which removes those system-specific information, and it generalizes that image. And once that image is generalized, so you can upload that into your repository, your VM image repository. From there you can use that to create instances of those image. So that's called custom image. So you have your own image which you want to bring in, and you want to use that while creating a VM. The second option that you have is Microsoft offers you their own predefined images, right? So which is there in the marketplace. If you go there, and then Microsoft has Windows 2012 R2 and so on, those images are like already there. But if you want to bring your own, and you want to bring your on-prem image, that's image is called custom image. Snapshot, when you have a VM and it's kind of backup, you can say. So it takes a point in time snapshot of a VHD. So you can take that snapshot of that VHD, and it stores it in the storage account. So that is snapshot. So snapshot is something which you will use for backup and restore if something happens to your VM. But whereas the custom image is used to, it's a template, it's a VM template, it's a golden image which is used to create further instances of the VM.
Even though that's just I'll add one more thing. The snapshot would be like the similar way which we used for the Hyper-V or the VMware. Like if something goes wrong or any software installed, and then your manager or your customer wanted to just go back to the previous configuration. So just you have to see the previous checkpoints and then restore it back, which is used in the snapshot purpose.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the next question. I see that how we simulate the environment to move on-premise load to Azure. Is there any low-cost VPN solution so I can simulate a real-life experience? So I'm not sure what is the intent of question here. You're saying that you need it. So obviously, like when you're moving any on-premise load to Azure, you need some kind of connectivity, right? There are two options that you can do. You can use, in fact, probably you may not require a VPN if it is only about the moving the the workload from on-prem into Azure. So you can use Azure Site Recovery. That's one option by which you can replicate your workload from on-prem into Azure, and the replication doesn't require a VPN connection. Replication happens over internet. It's encrypted prior to replication, so you can use ASR to replicate the workload. That's one option. The second option, which I was talking about, was the custom image. So, like if you really want to bring your own image into Azure, and then create an instance of that, so you can use that. Again, for that you don't require a connectivity. However, once those images are built, you certainly need certain connectivity or reach back to on-prem. So in that case, you can use your VPN. So you said low-cost VPN solution. So your low-cost VPN solution could be, if you don't have money to spend as an organization. So Microsoft already offers remote routing and access services, RAS, as a part of Windows Server, which acts as a VPN come router for you. So maybe you can use that and implement that on-prem as a VPN solution for you. That can work out. Or there are some third-party tools or third-party applications. So Microsoft has a list of VPN devices that you can choose from. Those are compatible devices for creating that VPN connectivity. Lalit, any points that you want to add on?
Yeah. So basically, the VPN devices, even though you can use the Microsoft for the testing purpose, you can use the RRAS, the remote access protocol, which can be deployed in Windows 2012 R2, but that's not the best practice. Even though if you need lower cost devices, if you have a VPN device in your own premises, which is supporting the routing protocol, then you can just go ahead and configure it. So that won't much cost you. But if you just go with the specific firewall or the complex network, which will cost more.
Yeah, that's correct. So you can choose the option, and I was referring to this list. Microsoft has published this list. I can paste that link for you, and you can look at it. So these are some of the lists which are compatible with Azure. So you have different vendors, like you have Barracuda, you have Brocade, you have Checkpoint, you have Cisco. So all this, so you can choose, if you don't have any VPN infrastructure, so you can choose anything from this list if you have some budget. All right, so let's move on to the next question. How is custom images just okay? So Lalit has answered that question. Can you explain in simple terms a storage account by giving a real life example? Okay, so storage account is though its name is account, sometimes we mistake account as our user account. So the way think that I have a user account which is an identity. So don't confuse storage account as an identity account. A storage account is a container, you can say, and that container is where you will store all your files, different kind of data in there. So in Azure you have if you look at on my screen that you have you can store your queues, you can store your tables. So queue is another storage type, and then table is a NoSQL. You can store SMB files. So Microsoft also offers you file share. Plus, you also have blob storage. Now, this blob storage is like, you can have three kind of blobs. You have block blobs, you have page blob, and you have append blob that I talked about. So all these live under, under one storage account. You give a name. This is called, Cloud Easy, or whatever name you give. Under that, you have blob containers, which is binary large objects, and you have file shares, you have queues, you have tables. So storage account is a container, top level container. It's certainly not an identity account. Though, as a part of storage account, you do, when you access the storage account, you use storage access signature, SAS signature, or storage access keys. And during that, you do use the identity, username and password. And username is your storage account name, and password is the key that's generated. But certainly, it's not an account in the user account. It's a container, and that's where you store your files. So let's move on to the next question. I am new and wanted to check if we can install any software in Azure. Yes, you can certainly install any software that you want to install. You can fire up a VM and you can install software of your choice on that VM. So it's the same like, if you build a VM on-prem and then you want to install anything on that, you can do so if you have admin privileges, right?
Yes. There's one more thing I'll just add in this. So basically, even though you have the custom software images available in the marketplace, so if you wanted to choose those images like SQL Server, Visual Studio, or other software, which is built in with the image and the pre-installed and the pre-configured, so you no need to install your own software. If you wanted to go, then you can choose that option as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So, like, as a part of Azure, by default, there are certain custom images that you get, and which is, baked in. All these images are baked in. If you go into the compute, under the compute, you see all these lists. And if I click on see all, you will see that it's not only the OS that Microsoft is offering, but also like, some other tools that they are also offering. So if you can see that you have SQL Server 2016 running on a Windows server. So if you do that, in that case, Microsoft, this images not only contains OS but also contains the SQL Server on top of it. So these are the options that you have that you can use it, which are already there. And these are what I was talking about, the marketplace images. Plus, if you want to bring in anything else on top of that, you can always do that. So, you share any document for Snapshot? So maybe we can share you the link, Samit. What is the best option to implement solutions if we require scale up and down to client delight? I mean, usually when you build a solution in cloud, you will always use scale out and scale in. So like, there are two kind of scaling that you can do. One is vertical scaling, one is horizontal scaling. So if you think about it, like, in the real world, you can have a series of a VM, right? And these series of VM can serve for you. Now it could be VM1, VM2, and VM3, let's say. So if you have 3 VM, now this can be, you can vertically scale up. So let's say if it is 4 vCPU, you can go from 4 to 8. Similarly, for others also, you can increase the vCPU and the RAM. That is called a vertical scaling when you upgrade the hardware of existing VM. However, when you do that, that's called scale up. When you do that, the system will require a reboot, and if you're running a production workload, it's not recommended. Plus, you will hit a limit. Let's say from 4 to 8, and then go up to 64 vCPU. So Microsoft has a limit in terms of what single VM can have. So that will bring a downtime, and also you will hit the upper limit soon. Whereas instead of like going for scale up, if you scale out, so scale out means like I will set up another VM and VM4 and then so on. In that case, it's unlimited, or practically unlimited. So, and that also doesn't require any downtime. So you can always bring more instances in, and you can bring down instances depending on your auto scaling. You can set those auto scaling, and also it doesn't require any downtime. Now, your question would be, if I'm going to bring these many VMs, how this communication is going to happen? My application has to know these new instances. So that's where your Azure load balancer comes into the picture. So you will put Azure load balancer, which gives you a VIP, virtual IP, and this virtual IP is what you will code in your application. And this Azure load balancer can be configured to handle the workload for any of your VM. So this kind of arrangement is called scale out, and the scale out is always recommended. And along with auto scaling, you can configure automatic scaling up and scaling down based on your utilization, and scale out and scale in, whereas if you do scale up and scale down, that requires downtime. So Rahul has a question: any best practices for subscription billing or cost optimization? So Microsoft has, I think Azure Advisor that you can do, but from the costing perspective, what you can do is you can set up an automated Azure automation account, which can help you bring down the VM. So let's say if you have a workload, that workload, runs on-prem, not sorry on-prem, but runs in cloud, and that requires. So let's say you have a schedule. So like 9 to 6 is what that's the time during where you have the peak time. And if it is dev workload, and then that your dev team is doing all this POC and all this work during this time, and that too on Monday to Friday, right? That's when your people will work. So if you know the definite time during which this workloads needed to be run, you can set up an automation account. That automation account can be configured to shut down all your VMs, shut down all your compute after 6 p.m., let's say. And you can have script doing that, and in fact I have configured that on my subscription, so which shuts down my VM at the midnight. In my case it's midnight. And then you can have another script which will be configured as part of our Azure automation, is that you can fire up your VM at 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. is when you will start. So this way you will save a lot of money if those workloads are not required to run all the time. That's one way to optimize. The second option that you can look at the utilization of existing VM, and if you see that the utilization is around 20% or 25%, so that means that you have over provision. Always remember, cloud means you can always go and scale out. So always provision just in time. So that means if you on-prem you were provisioning upfront, don't do that in cloud. If you do that in cloud, you will end up spending more money. So it's always advisable that you go for the right size and monitor it. And if that you see that, and you can monitor using Azure Monitor. So you have Azure Monitor, or you can also use OMS to monitor your workload and performance. And based on that, you should bring down the instances, and you can configure auto scaling also to save cost on that. So that's another way to optimize the cost.
Hello, Neeraj, Rahul again.
Yeah.
Yes. So yep. So actually, I have a few workload that is managed, like W2 servers and few backup servers. So I'm very much sure about this 10-15 server that is I need for 2-3 hours only for daily basis, not more than that. So my request is like how I can utilize script for that purpose.
So you have automation account. I can just quickly walk you through, and after this, I'll have to take a leave, guys. I have other commitment, so Lalit will continue. So if you come in Azure, so you can create an automation account. I already have it. I can show you that. So let's come here, and if I look at the automation account, so Azure, where's my automation account? Yeah, here it is. Again, automation account is a container. It's not an account per se, like a storage account. It's a container to contain all your resources related to, your resources inside the Azure. So if you create Azure account, Azure automation account, and under that you have option of run book gallery. So Microsoft has already published these run books for you. And you can see that Microsoft has these are published. One is stop Azure V2VM, which is for the ARM portal, and then start Azure V2VM. So you can use these two to do that. In fact, I have already configured that. If I look at my assets, so under the assets, I should see my the schedules. Then let's see, where is my asset? DSC schedules. So here you can see that I have two schedules. One is mid-morning, one is midnight stop. So midnight stop is when I'm stopping it. Mid-morning is when I'm starting it. So 1:30 a.m. I'm stopping it, and then 7:30 I'm starting it. So you can configure that using Azure Automation Route. I hope I answered your question, and it's already there. It's as a part of gallery.
Yes, Neeraj, thank you.
You're welcome.
Neeraj, this is Pawan.
Yeah, Pawan.
Yeah. So how we can migrate 3-tier applications from on-prem to the cloud services?
That's a good question. So if you have application which is categorized 3 tiers, you have two options. Either you can move as is, which is a lift and shift, and the second option is you can modernize that application and move in a PaaS pattern. So you can have your web app and you can have your backend SQL database. So it will depend on your choice. It will depend on the resources that you have available and the objective that your business has given to you. If your business has given an objective that you have to move in very short span of time, and they don't have any budget for refactoring the application, you will create a lift and shift topology. You will match the same topology that you have on-prem, and create the same topology in Azure, and then map those components one-on-one basis. That's not the most efficient way to do it. That will in fact that's not a recommended solution. But remember, it depends on everything depends on the business objective. So the business objective is to move as fast as possible. In that case, you can go with lift and shift approach. If not, if you have budget at your disposal and your business has time at hand and you can modernize the application, please modernize the application to leverage Azure PaaS component, platform as a service component. For example, Azure Web App, Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, Redis Cache, and all these services using which you can modernize that application and port it, or rather refactor it, and then bring it into cloud. So two approaches that you have. One is modernize and then bring it. The second is lift and shift as is.
In lift and shift, for example, 3 tiers. Okay, so which tier first we choose? Web applications or database? Which first we choose?
So you can do like during the migration phase, it's up to you whether you want to a hybrid topology, which is not, I wouldn't recommend in the hybrid topology, like you have a web app in Azure and database and app tier on-prem. That's also possible, but then you may have performance issues. So in this case, if at all possible, I would prefer to move all the components and do a testing before even if we go live, and everything is there. Then you go for cutover all the 3 tier at one go, right? If that's not the preferred approach, and you want to say, okay, I want to have web tier, and there is no perfect answer for this, right? It will depend from your organization perspective. So you can have web tier in Azure, and that web tier can come back to on-prem using Azure Service Bus or hybrid connector on-prem and talk to your database or to your application tier, and then slowly and gradually you migrate these two. That's also a possibility. So multiple approaches you can take. Cutover approach, wherein you migrate all three tier before you make it live, and then you go for cutover. Or you can have phased migration approach also, wherein one tier like web tier you move, then web tier, application tier, and then finally the database tier. You can do that. So both the approaches, it will depend on what's your objective. There's nothing wrong and right here. It will depend on your organization culture and what's the objective that business has given to you.
Neeraj, this is Sudha here.
Yeah.
So all three-tier application, it's not good to do lift and shift. First point. The second one is first you have to design it when you're going to migrate the three-tier application to any of the cloud platform. You have to create the dependency tree. So in the dependency tree, you have to measure up web, app, and whatever it is, tier 2 or tier 1. Just clear the dependency tree and then find the utilizations. What is the utilization mode? So first you have to create a replication. So if in case not possible to do the lift and shift, better you can do the replications, create on storage resource or volume, make the replication, move the workloads, don't do any cutover, move all the workloads, keep it there. Then you can interconnect it, test the endpoints, and everything else works good. Then you can do the last replication, traffic replication in between the on-premises to your cloud. Once it's done, so everything is take smoke test and everything, what are best practice you can do, can test it, then you can cut off this. The cutoff, after you did it in the production environment, you can test it in the endpoints and everything's performance or smoke test, everything you did it, so everything is cool, then you can, migration is completed. If not, then revert back to the procedure. But each and every tier 3 applications, particularly tier 3 application, you have to create a dependency first of all. So what is the higher dependency of each and every VM level? So this is my approach I used to do in the AWS platform, the 3-tier application which happens to migrate.
Thank you. So guys, I have to drop off, but Lalit will continue to take the questions that you have put in the chat window, and he will try to answer this. And we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, Lalit. Back to you.
Thanks, Neeraj.
Yeah.
Lalit?
Lalit, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Neeraj.
I don't know about Lalit. Lalit, can you hear me? I unmuted yourself. Can you talk? I think he has some problem. So he's rejoining, hopefully. Anyways.
All right, you said, yeah, it's 30 minutes, right? So better you can move on.
Yeah, so maybe Uday and Amit, just if you can take the questions and try to help the audience over here, so that would be a really
Sure. Absolutely. Sure, Neeraj, we will.
Yeah, there are some questions in chat, so if you can take those questions, that would be awesome.
Sure. It's just that I know I had the problem in logging in this time round, logging in through web. So I think I've lost the chat. So probably they can repose the questions, whatever are unanswered, and they will try and answer those questions for them, and rather exchange the knowledge, I would say, right?
So guys, if you have questions, please speak up, and Amit and Uday will try to answer, and hopefully let it also rejoin.
Yeah. Sorry, Neeraj. Actually, just call got disconnected.
Okay, so Lalit is back. Okay, all right. So, Lalit, I'm going to take the leave because I have to go to another engagement. So I will make you presenter, and then you take the questions that people over here have it.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
सच्चू आ जाओ कूल चल रहा है भाई
Okay. So one more questions, which I remember that what is the SaaS space and what kind of the applications you can deploy into the marketplace. So you can deploy whatever the applications are nowadays available in the marketplace. These are based on your SaaS space and IaaS model. So whatever the applications you are going and buying it. Basically, you're deploying to the VMs or the applications. This all the applications. This is are nowadays is connected to your marketplace. So whenever you just go and select your applications, either the mobile deployment applications or probably the VMs or the other applications which you wanted to deploy, just go and pick, and then you have to pay as you go, like whatever the application you utilize, and then you just have to pay. So basically all the applications or the softwares, including the third party firewalls and other parts, are available in the marketplace. I hope I answered the questions. Hello.
Lalit.
Yes.
Hey, Lalit, I have a generic question about one of the scenario.
Yes,
I can
sir.
tell you I have a 3-tier applications which is running in a different subscription. My primary customer don't want to share most of the details to the any other partner. For instance, my development and my database and application is running in my my subscription, but that we are giving some product definitions or some product requirement to share to the customer in web tier. So, but in this case, I have two different subscription. How can I integrate this database and application to other customer with a different subscription? They are not in the same network. Okay, but the traffic should not be passed with the load balancer should not go to DNS, the internet, then it will come back to the internet gateway, then load balancer from web application. The traffic should not be flow on the internet. So do you have any other solution for this? Do you understand my question, Lalit?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, let me just rephrase the question. So you have some two subscription, and your customer doesn't want to share that web application on the databases, but still they wanted to connect all the three subscription or the two subscription, and partners or the vendors they have access. Correct?
That's right. The vendors have the access for web development, web tier. The
Okay.
customer.
Sorry
So
to bother you guys. Sorry to interrupt you guys. Lalit, if it's okay, can I take this question for you?
please, Amit, you can.
Yeah, sure. I think what I believe, I'm trying to be as close as possible to for the answer to your question, and I believe it could be Azure AD B2B can be used here, which is one of the good solutions where even if you don't have web apps hosted in Azure, you have multiple people around, who want to be, who are in different subscriptions, maybe can also take advantage of it. And even if your own app is not hosted in Azure, all you have to do is use web app application proxy, and in conjunction with the this Azure AD B2B, there you can just use your URL and present this URL to be used, or rather I would say give a certain level of access to the people whom you wish to give the access to the application, and who may not be the part of the same Azure subscription you have, or maybe a different subscription. That's what I think that you can do if in case you don't have apps running or hosted in Azure. Please let me know if it answers your question to some extent. Uday?
Yeah, but Amit, my comment is the traffic should not be go in the internet level. So I have a different subscription, different network. My A customer and B customer. The A customer is holding a web app. My B customer is providing a database and application. Right. If in case the A customer so and so, they are trying to the end user trying to hit this web tier, automatically the data will be fetched from the other subscription. So in that case, the data generally the traffic will be flow in the internet. So without flowing the internet, how can this company A fetch the details from subscription B?
I think the best solution would be an IaaS solution rather than any PaaS solution, because then you would have separate VMs having a VPN connection between them. So excluding them from the internet by all means, like each of these VMs, excuse me, the web tier or the database tier, both being connected to each other through VPNs would actually disallow any intervention of internet or usage of internet between the two subscriptions, or rather I would say between the two environments, one which is running the web app and the other one which is running the database. Because that what will do is it's just a similar situation where you might have somebody hosting a database in the on-prem and somebody hosting the application on Azure or cloud platform. So I would suggest, this is what comes to me first. Maybe there are other alternative solutions also, but what comes to my mind first is running VMs separately in each of the subscriptions and allowing a VPN connection between the two. Hence, there is no intervention of internet that you would be requiring in order to connect or use the URL. So it's a secured connection that you can achieve. Yeah.
And Amit, just to give another idea, like if we have,
Sure.
If we configure NSGs for the virtual machines, then we can control our inbound and outbound traffic there as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And Amit, one more thing, like I just wanted to add. Between the subscription, even though now the one feature will be available that you can just connect the VNet to VNet peering. So
VNet peering.
I think so. You can just connect the VNet to VNet and all the subscription, and then they will be in the same network. And you can apply the NSG or the other securities, so they will be connected to each other, and that will be no public case. It should be in the private.
Generally, the VNet pairing will be the requirement is completely different. When you're comparing with only the two instances which is running in a company B and then web development is running in a company A.
Either you can do that pairing. Yes, either you can do one thing, or you can just put in one firewall in between all the three subscription and let all the subscription connected to the one firewall, and let's connection and then the network would be flow, and then all the three subscription will be in the same network, and the resources you can access, and that scenario. So, and you can block whatever the internet ports or the public facing IPs or the ports you have, just you can block it on the firewall. So it will be just triangular solution for you.
Yeah, because Lalit and Satya, I agree with your point, because what I suggested was just a pure connectivity, which is excluding the internet. The other two thing that you guys have suggested is absolutely hitting on the security part also. So I think if we combine all these three together, right? Obviously, if you have NSGs, that just makes a lot of sense here. But if you combine all these three things together, so I think that would be one of the
Actually, it will depend again if the customer is hosting, PaaS or IaaS instance.
Absolutely right, Satya, because I'm just referring to the IaaS model here, because while this question was raised, I was trying to do some permutation and combinations in the head to see if any PaaS model can support this situation or not. Okay, the other way around would be if you have a storage container where you might wish to have the app data or maybe such thing, maybe where you can have certain restricted on the storage part. That's where if you try to think in terms of a pass model. But what I see here, one of the feasible models, even if I see the permutation and combinations in terms of the pass style model, I still taking a better bet over pass in this situation normally. But if somebody has a pass solution for this, please do come up.
Yeah, and so some of the solution I can understand. This is if in case different subscription with a different availability zone, that with the VNet pairing and VNet would be good. But the same availability zone and with different subscription, the traffic should not be flow outside. So that's why I'm thinking the VNet pairing is not the solution from my understanding. And then VNet gateway or whatever it is you're going to use it, that is also a good solution. How can you? So okay, I would shoot this question in different way. I have a two subscription. How can you allow the internet network with the two subscription, the same region, same availability zone?
Between the two subscriptions.
Forgot about the tier 3 application, whatever it is, the two subscription, same availability zone. The traffic should not be pass outside.
Hey Uday, this is Ranjit. So let me understand the question in a different way. So correct me if I'm wrong. So you have two subscriptions which is in the same region, in the sense it is in the east US, and you want to utilize Azure, and you don't want any of your outbound traffic to go to internet, right? That is what you're trying to achieve.
No, Ranjit, I can reframe it. As I said, I have a two subscription which is running in the same availability zone.
Okay.
With the same availability zone, for example, if you take it as a US East, something, so it's running, the VMs are running in the same availability zone, but the traffic should not be go out in between the subscription.
Okay, so if you want to do it in that way, there is multiple choices are there. First one, you can, if you are fine with a hub and spoke model, then you can use the hub bus for the common landing place and pair it with the two subscriptions. If it is like company A on one spoke, company B on the different spoke, okay, and between these spokes, first of all, you are logically separated the traffic, right? Then
So
if you want to have filtration in the traffic as mentioned, the NSGs can be used. On top of it, like even if you want to have a separation block in between each web layer, like in the spoke, you have web application, and in that web application subnet, if you want to have further blockage, you can use point like NVAs. NVAs can be used, and you can use NVA address as the gateway for the web servers. So any traffic which is hitting the NVA, you can basically say that, hey, what needs to go out, what should not go out. In that way, if you're using NVA, you are getting much more control on the traffic. First one. Second one, if you don't want the same subnet web servers talk to each other, you can do that level of separation. The same subnet web servers doesn't want to speak to each other. Usually in a subnet, all the machines would be able to talk, but using the checkpoint NVA or Barracuda NVA, you can even block that level.
So 1 second, I would like to add something here, Ranjit. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like as per his question, we cannot control traffic between the subscription, if I'm correct. Then, and we should be always able to control between the traffic, like as you mentioned already. Like if, like different zones, people are having different subnets, then we can control those traffic. But I'm not sure if we can control between the subscriptions.
Yeah,
That's
that
right.
is also possible. The reason being it's very simple. Like most of the companies would be having subscriptions, like they have test. They create under the EA roof. They would be creating subscriptions as enterprise, as dev subscriptions, test subscription, and production subscription, and they would be attaching